You won't believe what I'm about to reveal to you. What Roman Reigns did to Paul Heyman behind closed doors 3 days ago has left the entire WWE locker room in complete silence. I'm talking about grown men, superstars who've been in this business for decades, refusing to even whisper about what they witnessed. This isn't just another backstage disagreement. This is something so shocking, so unprecedented, that WWE's top executives are scrambling to contain the fallout. And after 2 days of investigating, I finally have the exclusive details that explain why Paul Heyman hasn't been seen since Monday night. If you think you know Roman Reigns, you're about to discover a side of the tribal chief that will change everything you believe about the man behind the character. But first, let me set the stage for what led to this explosive confrontation. Welcome back to Wrestling Report, where we bring you the stories WWE doesn't want you to hear. I'm your host, and today we're diving deep into what might be the most significant backstage incident in recent WWE history. For months, we've watched the tension building between Roman Reigns and Paul Heyman. The cracks in their relationship have been visible to anyone paying attention. But what happened behind closed doors at the gorilla position after Monday Night Raw has sent shockwaves through the entire company. Now, before I reveal exactly what Roman did that has everyone terrified to speak up, I need you to understand the full context. Because what you're about to learn isn't just about one moment of rage, it's about a calculated move that reveals the true nature of Roman Reigns' power within WWE. By the end of this video, you'll understand why Paul Heyman's career might be over, why several top superstars are considering their options, and how this incident could reshape the entire landscape of WWE programming. You'll also discover the one detail that WWE is desperately trying to keep secret, a detail that could expose their biggest lie about Roman Reigns. We'll cover the events leading up to the confrontation, the shocking details of what actually happened, the immediate aftermath that has everyone walking on eggshells, and, most importantly, what this means for the future of WWE's biggest storylines. But first, let me tell you about the conversation that started it all, a conversation that took place just 30 minutes before Roman's explosive confrontation with Heyman. To understand the magnitude of what happened, you need to know that Roman Reigns doesn't just play the tribal chief on television. According to multiple sources within WWE, Roman has been wielding unprecedented backstage influence since his return in 2020. We're talking about creative control that rivals what Hulk Hogan had during his peak, combined with the political savvy of Triple H. Here's what my sources tell me happened in the hours leading up to the incident. Monday's Raw was already running behind schedule. The main event segment featuring the Bloodline was supposed to go 20 minutes, but Roman had other plans. According to a production assistant who was present, and who's asked to remain anonymous for obvious reasons, Roman walked into the production meeting at 6 p.m. and made demands that left everyone stunned. He didn't just want changes to his segment, he wanted complete control over how 3 other storylines would be presented that night. The first demand involved Cody Rhodes' promo. Roman allegedly insisted that certain lines be removed, lines that would have positioned Cody as a legitimate threat to his championship reign. When the writers pushed back, Roman reportedly said, and I quote, "Either you change it, or I change it for you." But that was just the beginning. Roman then turned his attention to the women's division segment, specifically demanding that Rhea Ripley's entrance be shortened because, according to witnesses, the crowd was getting too invested in someone who isn't part of my story. Now, imagine being Paul Heyman in this situation. You're watching the man you've helped build into the biggest star in the company systematically dismantling other performers' opportunities. You're seeing the political monster you helped create turning on the very foundation of what makes professional wrestling work. This is where Paul Heyman made the decision that would change everything. Instead of staying silent like he had for months, he decided to speak up. And what he said to Roman Reigns in that production meeting set the stage for the most shocking backstage confrontation in WWE history. But Paul's words in that meeting were nothing compared to what Roman would do to him later that night. What happened next reveals a side of Roman Reigns that even his harshest critics never imagined existed. The confrontation that has everyone in WWE walking on eggshells didn't happen in front of cameras. It happened in the one place where superstars think they're safe from scrutiny, and that's exactly why it was so devastating. After Monday Night Raw went off the air, most of the roster had already left the building. But Roman Reigns and Paul Heyman remained for what everyone assumed was their usual post-show debrief. These meetings had become routine over the past 3 years, a chance for them to discuss what worked, what didn't, and plan for upcoming shows. According to my source, a member of the production crew who was still in the building, Roman asked Paul to meet him in gorilla position at exactly 11:47 p.m. Now, for those who don't know, gorilla position is the area right behind the entrance curtain where wrestlers wait before their entrances. It's usually empty after shows, making it the perfect place for private conversations. What happened next lasted exactly 8 minutes and 23 seconds. I know this because the same production crew member was monitoring the area's security feed, standard protocol for post-show building security. Here's what Roman did that has everyone terrified to speak. He didn't just confront Paul Heyman about questioning his demands earlier. He systematically destroyed Paul's confidence, his reputation, and his sense of security within the company using information that Paul thought was private. Roman began by revealing that he knew about Paul's private conversations with other wrestlers, conversations where Paul had expressed concerns about Roman's growing ego and backstage behavior. But here's the shocking part. Roman didn't just know about these conversations. He had recordings. That's right. Roman Reigns has been secretly recording backstage conversations for months, building a database of information he could use against anyone who opposed him. But the recordings were just the beginning. Roman then revealed something that left Paul Heyman visibly shaken. He told Paul that he knew about his medical condition, a condition that Paul has kept private from everyone except his immediate family and WWE's medical staff. According to my source, Paul's reaction was immediate and heartbreaking. This man, who has been one of the most confident personalities in wrestling for over 3 decades, was reduced to pleading with Roman not to use this information against him. And then Roman delivered the blow that has everyone in WWE terrified. He told Paul that if he ever questioned his decisions again, if he ever tried to manage him instead of simply following orders, Roman would not only release the recordings but would also make sure that Paul's medical information became public knowledge. My source described Paul's reaction as complete devastation. This wasn't just a threat to his career, it was a threat to his personal dignity and privacy. Paul Heyman, the man who has managed legends and built careers, was being blackmailed by the very superstar he helped create. But here's the detail that has everyone in WWE walking on eggshells. Roman didn't stop there. He told Paul that this conversation was also being recorded and that if Paul ever tried to expose what happened, Roman would claim that Paul was the one making threats. The psychological manipulation was so complete, so calculated, that it revealed Roman Reigns isn't just playing a character on television. He's become something far more dangerous, a man who will destroy anyone who threatens his position, using methods that would make corporate executives proud and terrified at the same time. What happened in the 48 hours after this confrontation proves that Roman's threats weren't empty, and reveals just how deep his influence within WWE really goes. The immediate aftermath of Roman's confrontation with Paul Heyman sent ripples through the entire WWE roster. But it wasn't just about what people knew, it was about what they suspected and how quickly word spread through the wrestling community's underground network. Paul Heyman hasn't appeared on WWE programming since that Monday night. Officially, WWE is calling it a creative decision and suggesting that Paul is taking time to develop new storylines. But my sources paint a very different picture. 3 separate wrestlers, all of whom have worked closely with Paul over the years, have told me that Paul has been unreachable since Tuesday morning. His usual presence at production meetings, his constant text communication with talent, his involvement in creative discussions, all of it stopped immediately after his confrontation with Roman. But Paul's disappearance is just the tip of the iceberg. What's really telling is how other wrestlers are behaving around Roman Reigns. According to a veteran performer who's been with the company for over a decade, everyone's walking on eggshells. Nobody wants to be the next person Roman decides to target. I've spoken with multiple sources who describe a dramatic shift in backstage dynamics. Wrestlers who used to joke around with Roman now keep their interactions strictly professional. Creative team members who used to offer suggestions now simply nod and agree with whatever Roman proposes. Here's what's really chilling. Several wrestlers have started being more careful about their private conversations, suspecting that Roman might be recording them too. One mid-card performer told me, if he did it to Paul Heyman, someone he supposedly trusted, what's stopping him from doing it to any of us? WWE's corporate response has been equally telling. Instead of addressing the situation directly, they've been quietly reassigning personnel and changing backstage protocols. New rules about recording devices, stricter policies about private conversations in company facilities, and increased security monitoring, all implemented within 72 hours of the incident. But perhaps the most significant consequence is how this has affected other major storylines. Creative decisions that would normally involve input from multiple people are now being filtered through Roman's approval. Wrestlers scheduled for pushes have seen their momentum mysteriously stall. Storylines that might overshadow Roman's dominance have been quietly shelved. The wrestling industry is smaller than people realize, and word travels fast. Sources in AEW, Impact Wrestling, and even New Japan have told me they're aware something major happened involving Roman and Paul. Some have even reached out to Paul directly, though none have received responses. What we're witnessing isn't just the fallout from one backstage confrontation. We're seeing the emergence of a power structure within WWE that gives one performer unprecedented control over the entire product. Roman Reigns has essentially become untouchable, and everyone knows it. This level of backstage control raises serious questions about the future of WWE programming, the treatment of other performers, and whether anyone within the company has the power, or the courage, to challenge Roman's growing influence. The implications of Roman's actions extend far beyond one destroyed relationship. They reveal a fundamental shift in how WWE operates that could change professional wrestling forever. To understand why this incident is so significant, you need to realize that WWE has always been built on a delicate balance of creative control, performer influence, and corporate oversight. What Roman has done threatens to destroy that balance entirely. Historically, even WWE's biggest stars had limits to their backstage influence. Hulk Hogan had creative control over his character but couldn't dictate other wrestlers' storylines. Stone Cold Steve Austin could refuse to do certain angles but couldn't blackmail colleagues into compliance. John Cena had significant input but operated within established boundaries. Roman Reigns has shattered those boundaries. By combining his on-screen importance with systematic information gathering and psychological manipulation, he's created a level of control that's unprecedented in modern wrestling. The immediate consequences are already visible. Creative meetings now revolve around Roman's approval. Storylines are being developed with his interests as the primary consideration. Other performers are being positioned not based on their talent or fan reaction, but on how they serve Roman's narrative. But the long-term implications are even more concerning. If Roman can destroy Paul Heyman's career with impunity, what's stopping him from targeting other wrestlers who might threaten his position? What happens when the next breakout star starts getting reactions that rival Roman's? Multiple sources have told me that several wrestlers are quietly exploring their options. Not just mid-card performers looking for better opportunities, but established stars who are uncomfortable with the current power dynamic. The wrestling industry is more competitive than it's been in decades, and talented performers have alternatives. From a creative standpoint, this level of control by one performer inevitably leads to stagnation. When storylines are filtered through one person's interests and ego, the product becomes predictable and self-serving. We're already seeing signs of this in WWE's current programming. WWE's corporate leadership faces an impossible situation. Roman Reigns is undeniably their biggest draw and most valuable performer. But his methods of maintaining that position are creating a toxic environment that could ultimately damage the company's long-term prospects. This situation has historical precedent, and it's not encouraging. Every time a single performer has gained this level of backstage control, it's eventually led to creative decline and industry upheaval. The Monday Night Wars began partly because of similar power concentration in WWE during the early 1990s. The real question isn't whether Roman's actions were justified or effective, it's whether WWE as a company can survive having one performer wield this much influence over every aspect of their product. So let's recap what we've uncovered today. Roman Reigns systematically destroyed Paul Heyman using secretly recorded conversations and private medical information. He's created a climate of fear within WWE that's affecting every aspect of their programming. And he's established a level of backstage control that threatens the fundamental structure of professional wrestling. This isn't just gossip or speculation. This is a fundamental shift in how WWE operates, and it affects every wrestler, every storyline, and ultimately every fan who watches their programming. Now, some of you might be thinking this sounds too extreme, too calculated for someone who's just a wrestler. But remember, Roman Reigns isn't just a wrestler anymore. He's a corporate asset worth hundreds of millions of dollars, and he's protecting that asset using methods that would make Fortune 500 executives proud. The question now is what happens next? Will Paul Heyman find a way to fight back? Will other wrestlers band together to challenge Roman's control? Or will WWE continue down this path until one man essentially controls the entire product? Here's what I need from you. Keep watching WWE programming with this new perspective. Notice how storylines are being shaped, how other wrestlers are being positioned, and how creative decisions seem to flow through one central authority. The signs are all there once you know what to look for. In the comments below, let me know what you think about this situation. Do you believe Roman's actions are justified to protect his position, or has he crossed a line that threatens the integrity of professional wrestling? Have you noticed changes in WWE's creative direction that support what I've revealed today? I've also created a detailed timeline of all the backstage incidents and creative changes that led to this confrontation. You can access that exclusive content by joining our insider community. The link is in the description below. This story is far from over. I'm continuing to investigate Roman's influence within WWE, and I have sources working to uncover more details about his methods and targets. Next week, I'll be revealing information about 3 other wrestlers who may have been victims of similar tactics, and one of them might surprise you. But here's something to think about until then. If Roman Reigns can do this to Paul Heyman, a man with decades of industry connections and insider knowledge, imagine what he could do to wrestlers who don't have that level of protection. The implications go far beyond one destroyed relationship. Make sure you're subscribed and hit that notification bell, because the wrestling world is about to get a lot more interesting. WWE might try to keep these stories buried, but we're going to keep digging until the truth comes out. And remember, if you have information about backstage incidents or creative interference that you think the wrestling community needs to know about, you can reach out to me through the secure contact methods listed in the description. Your anonymity is guaranteed, and your information could help expose the truth about what's really happening behind the scenes. Thanks for watching Wrestling Report, where we bring you the stories they don't want you to hear. The video on screen now reveals another shocking backstage incident that connects directly to what we've discussed today. And if you want to understand how Roman's influence extends beyond WWE, check out the video in the description about his rumored involvement in blocking certain wrestlers from joining other promotions. Until next time, keep questioning what you see on screen, because the real story is always happening behind the curtain.